Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the La Vida Loca Cruise Podcast. I am your host, Tony, and a special episode today as finally my friend Don Terris is on the podcast. Don Terris, cruise content creator extraordinaire from the YouTube channels Don's Family Vacations and Just Don. And other than my wife, this is probably the person I have been on cruise ships with the most. We've traveled the world. We've been to Asia. We've been to Australia. We've been all over North America. We've been to Europe. Don and I just got back from an epic bucket list cruise to the UK, Ireland, Iceland, and Greenland, and spent some time chopping it up. So without further ado, here is my conversation with my buddy, Don Terris. Here with my buddy Don Terris from Don's Family Vacations, and we just came back from a kind of an epic cruise, but we came back in the middle of a lot of things going on in cruising, so I thought we would spend a little time with my buddy Don here. Don, how you adjusting back to Eastern time after spending 16 days on a variety of European time zones?
It was a little hectic to get back to my normal routine again when I got back. Not only that, Angelina went on vacation, so I had to cover her work while she was gone as well. So I was super busy, and it took 23 hours to get home in flying
Ooh.
for us.
Wow. I lucked out. I was able to jump on a plane in London at Heathrow, and it was a long flight. It took me about 10 and a half hours to get home, but it was a direct flight, so it was all in one day. But the time change, it gets me. I've got to come up with some better techniques for jet lag, because for the first, I guess we've been home maybe 10 days or something like that. For the first week, I just kept popping up and waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. But I think I'm finally in a good spot. Man, what an epic cruise that we went on. So we were on the Caribbean Princess, and we visited the UK. So we were in Falmouth and Cornwall. That was in the UK. Then we went to Cove in Ireland. Then we had 3 stops in Iceland, Akureyri, Isafjordur, I still can't say that place, Reykjavik. Then we went to Qaqortoq in Greenland, and then Nanatorlik in Greenland. And wow, what a variety of spots. I feel like that's definitely a bucket list cruise. I don't think I approached it that way, but it's certainly a bucket list cruise. Just off the top of your head, out of all those places that we went, what's the first place that comes to mind in your memory?
For me, it was 2. I did like the Blue Lagoon, which I'm hoping everybody there is safe. You heard about the volcano. You texted me yesterday about it.
Yeah.
We missed it by 2 weeks.
Yeah,
How
20
close
days.
was that? Right?
That's pretty wild. Let's sit on that for a second. The Blue Lagoon, when you were there, like, I knew when we went there that we were going to a place where there was active volcanic activity. But man, it got really real when we made that left turn into the lava field. And almost immediately we passed a sign where a city that was an active town just recently had been crossed out because of lava flow. And then we went through what looked like Mars. We went through all of this lava landscape. It looked so abnormal to me. And the whole goal was to go and hang out there. On the way in, did you feel any kind of way? Did you feel any trepidation? Or what were you thinking as we drove through that lava field to the Blue Lagoon?
I didn't quite realize that the volcano was only 2 kilometers away. But remember they gave us the warning on the way in. If you hear the sirens, they're going to evacuate us and everything. Well, that happened to the folks this week. But the lava flow that came out, it went 1 kilometer, so half the distance to the Blue Lagoon in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of warning for a lot of people, right? So, yeah, it's scarier. I always flash back to 2019 with the tragedy that happened in Australia with people visiting an actual volcano when it went off on them. So it's scary, but like, we didn't even think twice until we got there, if you know what I mean, right? So
yeah,
luckily we're okay.
It was kind of spooky because that White Island off the coast of New Zealand, when we went to New Zealand, we passed it. And I'd watched that documentary before we got down there, and it was, it's so tragic. People lost their lives at White Island. So when we were there at the Blue Lagoon, especially when they were telling us about, hey, if you hear the sirens, I was like, wow, this would be the worst thing to happen. You're just trying to go and experience something, and then all of a sudden, something bad happens. But yeah, I saw the social media, TikTok and stuff like that of these sirens going off and people evacuating the Blue Lagoon just a couple days ago. And fortunately, I think it's back open, right? Because the lava flow did stop. It didn't completely go toward the Blue Lagoon. So I think they're open back up again, which is great. And it does sound like that it's routine enough for them that they have a process in place. But even the day that we drove in, the new lava was very close to the entrance of the Blue Lagoon. So that was wild. So the Blue Lagoon, definitely a memorable event there. And of course it was a blast, just experiencing it. Sometime I would love to go back to Reykjavik and spend more time at one of those geothermal, if it's not the Blue Lagoon, there's other things there that are similar.
Lots of the stuff we afterwards thought, like the super Jeeps, we would have liked to have gone on one of those excursions with the big thick tires and heading up into the lava flows. So there's lots that we didn't do yet.
In addition to the Blue Lagoon, what else from that trip sticks out in your mind?
It's got to be the icebergs.
Yeah.
Right? Going on, like, we had a cloudy day and a rainy, drizzly day a bit. Imagine that had it been sunny that day, how beautiful our shots came out beautiful. I have some of the most amazing shots of icebergs and the colors of the water. Amazing. Sunny day would have been spectacular, even better. So at first I said, it's going to be an hour. It's not really worth, but one of the best hours I've ever spent on an excursion.
Honestly, I wasn't convinced that I was going to like it, even up until the point that we got on the boat to go out there.
Especially the cold on the way out.
Yeah, it was cold, and it was a long day. We kind of, I think you made a video about it where you said we messed up a little bit. When we were planning to go on this trip, we did spend some time trying to make sure that we had excursions on those first two ports, the one in the UK, the one in Ireland. We also made sure that we had excursions booked for Iceland. But then we came to Greenland and we looked at some of those prices, and they were pretty high. Like, are we going to pay? What were some of those prices for an hour? Like $300 or $400 for an hour?
They were on average $320 a person, US.
Yeah,
and those were cheaper excursions. There were still other excursions that were like $900 to go up into places, and I just like half the cost of my cruise to go on an excursion. I don't think so.
It was really tough, and you and I have thrown money away on just dumb stuff, like
like my cabin.
I have most recently that $5,000 upgrade. So it's so funny when it comes to like these excursions. You're like, $320 for an hour. I'm not doing that. But I've wasted I've wasted more money than that. But I couldn't do it pre-cruise. Yeah. And then we got on the cruise, and I think we went to one of those port talks, and then they were talking it up, and I was like, I felt immediate regret that we didn't book like a iceberg tour. Then we tried to do it in Kakatoak, and there was nothing available, and so that kind of set up our day in Nanatorlik, where we're gonna go over super early and see if we can get on one of these tours. And so all's well that ends well. It worked out well because we were able to secure a tour for $150, which the cruise ship would have
an extra tour that they put out because there was enough people inquiring. It wasn't scheduled. So
that wasn't a tour to be had. We were very fortunate that other people wanted to do that. But so we ended up, getting a $300 tour. And even on the cruise ship, a few days before we got to Greenland, they had a tour similar for like $500 or something like that. Yeah. So we did save the money. Again, it took all day for us to get there. We got over at like 7 a.m. Our tour wasn't until 1:30 p.m. and that was the weirdest spot. Those spots there in Greenland, there's not like restaurants there. There's not places to sit around. There's, the one coffee shop wasn't open in Nanatorlik. And so you got to be mindful that essentially when you're doing these Greenland stops, you're going to fishing villages. And there's only, if you're not doing a tour, there's not a lot to do. So we ended up, going to that open air museum, which was amazing. But we ended up, just waiting around in the cold and rain to get on this tour. And so by the time we got to the tour, like I said, I was not 100% convinced that it was going to be amazing. But it was amazing. It was amazing. And it was definitely worth $150. But I guess the $320 question is, knowing what you know now, do you feel like you would have happily spent $320 to book that prior to going there?
I probably wouldn't. Had I not known I could get it for $100 and some, I probably would not have regretted doing it after experiencing it.
Yeah.
Also, we wouldn't have had to go over at 7 a.m. We had a scheduled time. Ask me right now where something is in one of their 2 grocery stores. I can tell you because we spent about 4 hours in those grocery stores.
That was so funny. Like we just ended up doing the loop, right? Like we were, okay, we went to the open air museum. Let's go down to the dock and see if we can see the boat that we're going to get on. Okay, that's probably not the boat, but now we've been to the dock. Where are we going to go? All right, let's go to one of the grocery stores. There's something maybe we want to get. Okay, we get a soda in the grocery store. All right, let's walk around the town again. Let's go back to the dock. Let's go to the grocery store. It was like rinse and repeat, to the point where you said it and I thought it. We went into that grocery store enough. I was expecting people to think that we were like shoplifting or something.
Shoplifters, yeah.
Like they were casing the place, that kind of thing. Yeah, I tell you what, I didn't know what to expect with this whole cruise, but I really came away from it saying this should be on people's bucket list. For me, Greenland feels a lot like the Panama Canal. I wasn't super excited to do the Panama Canal. I did the Panama Canal cruise, and it was great. I felt like I got a lot out of that Panama Canal cruise, but I feel like it's one and done. Like, I don't necessarily need to do the Atlantic to the Pacific transit again. Maybe I would like to do the Pacific to the Atlantic transit, but I don't see that being something I could do every year like Alaska. I feel like going to Greenland is the same thing, just the Greenland part. I feel like going to those 2 fishing villages, getting to have that experience with the icebergs, that was amazing, mind blown, but I don't feel like I would go and do it again. But Iceland is a whole different thing. Every stop that we had in Iceland was super interesting, and I feel like at every one of those stops I could have spent more time. And so I'm definitely, Iceland's still on my bucket list, honestly, is a place that I would like to return to.
And they also have the towns were larger, the cities were larger, right? So there were other things they had. They had botanical gardens. They had all kinds of things you can go do. It's just, it's kind of amazing when you leave the city, there's no trees anywhere on the whole place, right? It
was bizarre, yeah.
Like it's an experience. If you've never been there, it's an experience.
Well, the thing that's wild for me that I guess it was in, it might have been in Ackery, the thing that kind of blew my mind, of course, because it's all volcanic rock, so no trees, to your point, but still, throughout history, stuff had to be built there. And so I don't think I'd ever made the connection that when you don't have trees, then building materials gets you in different ways. And so we went to, I think, that farm village that had the church, and all of that was made with wood that just washed ashore.
Yeah.
Could you imagine your whole building plans being put on hold by like, hey, did you find anything by the shore today? No, okay, then I don't guess we can build the next plank in our building. So I couldn't imagine that being a life that people live, but that was a life that people live. So we take a lot of stuff for granted that you can just go to Lowe's or Home Depot and get some 2x4s.
Older days, we take a lot for granted now. Yeah. Well, just do that. I would have done that. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't have known what to do. No. So
absolutely
completely different, right?
Yeah, so this was my 4th time on the Caribbean Princess. How many times have you been on the Caribbean Princess? Do you know?
At least 8. At least 8 times now. Yeah.
What do you think about her? She's getting a little bit old. Let's go through that aspect of the cruise. Of course, you've shared the story that you got visited by the upgrade fairy. I mean, you actively pursued the upgrade
fairy.
You've actively pursued the upgrade fairy, and you ended up going from a mini suite, balcony mini suite, to a full-on 2-room suite that had an amazingly large, big old balcony. and you got the privilege of doing that for around $5,000. But I think there is a lesson to be learned from your upgrade fairy story. Just because stuff's an upgrade doesn't mean it's always going to be good. What were your takeaways from your upgrade experience?
Well, I did love the cabin. Because on the Caribbean Princess, if you go in there and like if you go into a mini suite, there's this like shelf in the middle between the bed and the couch, and there's 2 TVs up on those shelves, and they seem oversized for the shelf because they used to be little 21-inch TVs before, and now they're 40-inch TVs, so they seem out of place. In my cabin, I had a living room with the TV on the wall. In my bedroom, I had a TV on the wall. So I had lots of space to get out and stretch. The cabin was fine. Was it worth $5,000 from the cabin I was in? Probably not. Probably not, especially with the balcony. But I love spending time on the balcony. I couldn't spend time out there this time because basically there were workers out there on the top deck half the time. Or, I'm looking down at the captain. And it's funny, I just got an email from somebody who was on the ship directly after us staying in my cabin. And he sent me pictures saying, does this look familiar?
Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen what Don's talking about, his upgrade, what deck were you on? 15, you're on the Lido deck, right?
Yeah, top deck, yeah.
So top deck, and it's a forward-facing balcony, which you would think would be amazing. But the problem is the way that ship is built is it's got the bridge has wings, right? So it wings out. And his cabin just happened to be on the top side of the wing, and it obstructed most of his forward-facing view. So,
I could see nothing in front of my ship, period.
Yeah.
I could only see to the side, to the back. And so I used 1/3 of my balcony.
It's so weird because, you would think something that's being sold like as a premium suite type experience that it would have such a poorly obstructed view. I mean, that may be the only way that it can go on that cruise ship, but I don't know that I would sell it like that if it was my cruise ship. Like, here's your suite, your premium suite. But
the only thing that could have made it better is because I was literally attached to the top observation deck, if they would have had an opening that I could have gone up onto the observation deck at my, then maybe that would have been worth it.
Yeah, if you had your own private observation deck, that would have been the next level because it was there. It was just chained off, like you're blocked off. You couldn't get there. So
I understand why. No.
Yeah. You don't want people up there. Yeah, wandering.
They also have the radar up there, the wind direction up there. So they don't want people playing around on there with nobody up there. But it is what it is. I learned by my mistakes as well as my accomplishments.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that cruise ship. So let's talk a little bit about the food on the Caribbean Princess. What was your takeaways from the food options they had there?
I keep forgetting how small the buffet is on board. And they only open one side at a time, right? So it gets super busy on one side, and then no one's sitting on the other side almost at all. That's where the crew goes. The crew goes over there and eats because they know it's not busy. But I was a little disappointed this time around with the amount, like the food choices. Basically, there wasn't a whole lot for me. There was lots of sandwich meat and bread and desserts. But as far as like, hey, I want some pasta today, maybe some baked potatoes or something. No, there was nothing there. Now, there's other places I could have ate other than the buffet, the main dining and et cetera, room service. Yeah. But I'm a buffet guy because we work in our cabin half the time when we're there on the cruise ship. And I did not like the choices.
Yeah, it was a weird thing. It was a pretty port intensive cruise. We did have a lot of sea days, but the way that they lined up, we got on the cruise ship in Southampton, and then I think did we have one sea day or did we immediately go to port?
I think we were in port the very next day, yeah.
Yeah, so we went to Falmouth in the UK, and then we went to Cove in Ireland, then 2 sea days, and then we had our 3 stops in Iceland, and then another couple sea days, then Greenland, then 4 sea days at the end. But I think for me, and this is back to why I ate at the buffet a lot. I think for me, like the whole trying to go to the main dining room and all that kind of stuff. I think I was those port that when it's that port intensive, I felt like I was a little tired most of the time. And the other thing that's more important to me than like say eating at the main dining room is going to the shows. So I would rather have a quick stop at the buffet or room service or something fast casual so that I can still make all the show schedules, which is what we tried to do. But the one thing that was interesting on this cruise for me, and it could have just been my palate, everything seemed very underseasoned. And I don't know if that's a difference between a cruise that starts in the UK versus a cruise that starts in the US. I don't know if they changed the way that they season food based on those kind of things, but most everything ship, I had.
Right? We were on that ship last fall.
Yeah, and I don't
remember us saying that.
I don't remember the food seeming that ill-seasoned, but so the food was a little less than stellar in my opinion on that cruise. But again, we didn't try everything. We did do a couple specialty dinings. We went to Sabatini's. We did the Crown Grill. Even in the specialties, I wasn't really that overwhelmed or that excited. But of course, food is something that we all need, that kind of thing. More exciting for me was the shows, and we did see 3 production shows on that cruise, including a new one. 4 production shows, including a new one. What did you think about the shows?
I enjoyed the shows. I thought the dancers and singers were okay. I feel sorry for saying I think their voices and everything were fine, but some of them couldn't quite reach the numbers. But I know they were going through something because they were missing a singer, I believe.
Yeah.
So they didn't have the harmonies to match the way they normally would, and some of the stuff was voiced over, and the girl was lip syncing. She was actually the dance captain and team leader, and she was taking over for everybody's part. Must be a real hard situation. So I'm not going to take anything other than that. I enjoyed all the shows, as normal on Princess.
I think the thing that I really like the new show. We're seeing more and more cruise ships try to incorporate small drones, like changing the technology around, using more of their screens, and it was neat. They had a little drone part of the show, the new show, so it's kind of neat to see Princess evolving, like many of these other cruise lines, trying to continue to step up the innovation inside of their shows. And then, whenever you go on one of these long cruises, you're like, well, what's going to happen? Is or the production show, are they going to do a bunch of them? But I thought they had a nice mix. Not every entertainer was the style that we liked, but they had, magician, they had comedians, they had cabaret type singers, they had Frank Sinatra type singer,
Celine Dion.
Yeah. So I felt like they really tried to round out the entertainment in between the production shows. They even had a local presentation one of the nights, I think, in Reykjavik. So there was a lot of interesting things going on. I thought that was good. And then I do like the Explorers Lounge. I know it's different than maybe some of the traditional places where they have the game shows, but I think it's a pretty nice big venue. We saw a couple of shows there. We saw the magician guy that we liked there at the Explorers. So overall, I felt like we had a pretty good time when it came to entertainment. But I think my final takeaway is, I think maybe 4 times on the Caribbean Princess is enough for me. I know she's going to get renovated and dry docked again, which is exciting. Eventually, she'll be right here in Florida where I could get on it. But this was definitely an itinerary cruise for me, more so than a ship cruise for me. But it wasn't the worst ship that I'd ever been on. But I think maybe that might be it for me on the Caribbean Princess. But who knows? Who knows?
Well, the thing about the Caribbean Princess and ships like the Island Princess and that is the Piazza is a lot smaller than their Royal class ships, right? So they try and do stuff there, but it's not as easy to do things in the Piazzas. So that takes a little bit away when you're on the ship. But look how busy everything was on this ship as far as the shows were concerned. And even in the game shows, like everybody was there.
Yeah, it was a tough one on this one. It seemed like everybody loved the show. I don't know if it was a lack of other stuff to do, but everybody we've both chronicled it. People getting in fights over seats in the theater, and it was crazy. I don't think I'd seen that many people get all kind of bent out of shape like we did on this cruise. We ran into some interesting characters, and I do want to talk about that a little bit. I mentioned in that exchange that I had in the theater when we were sitting on the front row together. We'd gotten there. I don't love the fact that we have to get somewhere an hour and a half early to get the seats that we want, but that's the way it seems to work on some of these cruise ships. But that night that I gave up my seat and I went and sat in the Princess Premier section, and that's where I saw some big like oversized man yell at some tiny grandma, and I made a video about that, and people said good for that guy. Rude grandmas need to be put in their place, and absolutely nothing happened because all it turned out to be was just this guy yelling at this woman. But so many people said good for them, that kind of thing. I don't ever speak up. I never, because there's stories like that carnival story where some guy called out some person that was acting rude, and the guy smashed a glass over his head and caused physical injury. I don't want to get in a fight. So that's the question. What would it take? Where are you at when it comes to calling people out that are acting rude on cruise ships? Is there ever a time that you think that you would do it? Do you think people are right by saying that rude people should be called out face to face like that, or what do you think the approach is? Because me, I'm still, I've been called all kinds of names because I won't yell at a grandma. But where's the line, do you think?
I think it also kind of depends on the mood you're in at the time.
Yeah.
But I can think of off the top of my head a couple of times where I spoke up to some people. One was my famous video that people call it "Don't Touch My Food," where I saw a guy licking his fingers to get butter off them and touching all the rolls to feel which one was soft. And I spoke up then. Yeah. And then one of my last cruises last year where the lady came out with her entire family of like 15 people out of the elevator. She was told to go to the back of the line, and she no, everybody just go in. And I said, the line is back there. People need to mind their own business. Everyone's just trying to get off. And I said, yeah, the 200 people behind you are also trying to get off. But be you, lady. It's all about you. Yeah. So I do speak up once in a while. But I didn't get into a conversation. Like, I wasn't hostile. Yeah. I just said, it's all about you. And I turned around.
What was the outcome? Did she go to the back of the line, or she kept butting in?
She stayed there with her family, and everyone around me was talking to me in the line saying, good for you for saying stuff like that. And then I said, because no one else did. But then when they got to the end, two of the family had to get pulled aside because they hadn't paid all their bill yet. Ooh. And there was money owed. So they had to go in line, and all of us passed them in line on the way out. So it's kind of like kismet, right? So there you go.
See you later, losers. See you later, losers.
And don't think that everybody that was around us in that area, when they saw them get it pulled over, weren't thinking in their head, yeah.
Yeah. It's such a weird thing, like cruising, just because it's so communal. I mean, you really are there with just so many people that you've got to figure out a way to get along with, and it just seems like some people don't want to get along. All right, we'll leave the cruise, but we'll continue with this idea of people that don't want to get along. I just covered the story today that the Disney Dream was set to stop in Amsterdam on, I think, the 6th of September, but they've decided they're not going to because they sent out an email to their passengers saying the access to the port has been troublesome. That's all they said. But we know that the reason that access to the port in Amsterdam has been troublesome is because of these protesters.
Yeah, Extinction Rebellion in particular.
There's been so many cruise lines talking about the challenges they're having because of these protesters. What do you think? So certainly we don't know that Extinction Rebellion is speaking for the majority of people in Amsterdam. We don't know that they're not. But whatever effort they're putting forth, they are impacting cruises. A couple questions. Do you think that even if there's a small amount of resistance to cruising, the cruise ships should not go there? Or what do you think the solution is to this protest problem that's certainly impacting cruises and cruisers in Amsterdam?
Well, First of all, there should be some ramifications for interrupting business. They've also interrupted oil tankers trying to get to the port to drop off fuel for everybody.
Yeah.
But the only thing that happens is the police show up about 3 or 4 hours later, put them in handcuffs, move them away, and then release them. And there's been no charges. There's been nothing laid down. So if there's no charges, why would they even stop?
Right.
Right. It doesn't matter that they're just stop. Here's the part that really annoys me. They're saying they're fuel. They're wasting fuel. They're bad for the environment. Are they stopping the cruise ship from sailing? No. The cruise ship goes to another port, and then they bus all the passengers an extra hour both ways, burning fuel and cleaning and polluting the environment. So what they're doing is causing more pollution than just letting them go to the port. So it's hypocritical. It really is. It's all about the headlines, and that's all it is. Half of them, when they speak, their facts are completely wrong. And now they just want cruise ships gone. Period. Not to stop coming to Amsterdam. They want the end of cruising. Period. For every place in the world. That's their goal. And 7 people are holding up all these thousands and thousands of people. Amsterdam needs to get their act together and just throw some of them in jail and say, by the way, here's a $10,000 fine. See if they show up the next day.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'm all for people protesting. I'm all for people having their say. But at the same time, I think once you get to the place where you are impacting legitimate commerce, like this is business that the government in Amsterdam has said is okay. Cruise ships, they're on the docket to come in. These ships that are being stopped are approved. And so to me, it's disingenuous to, just try to stop something like that. I don't know. Like, I get it. Like, okay, we don't want it, that kind of thing. But to your point, I think there should be consequences for interrupting with the legitimate business of a city. And, we see it all over the place. Bar Harbor, the whole thing in Bar Harbor is pretty wild because they've been talking about it for 2 years and it's just so mired in bureaucracy right now, right? I think the latest thing out of Bar Harbor is they've made another committee to talk about what to do. But the problem is cruise lines are like, well, we don't want to deal with that. And they're starting to not go to Bar Harbor. So what could happen is that Bar Harbor could come out in another year and say, okay, we've got a plan now. We're ready for cruise ships to come, and there may not be cruise ships to go there. It's a weird situation. A lot of people have commented when I talk about it in videos of, if somebody doesn't want us there, we don't want to go there. But at the same time, I feel like, travel is so important because like when you go to Amsterdam, you can go to the Van Gogh Museum or you can go to the Anne Frank house, that kind of thing. And, not that a city shouldn't say that we don't want other people to experience those things, but when you legitimately can, I feel like it's just sad for people that are trying to get those experiences not to get them. I'm sure people are, first world problems, that kind of thing, but it's a real concern, I would think, for cruisers and the cruise industry. And but I really do think what's going to happen is other places will just spring up and raise their hand. Like, okay, Amsterdam, you don't want the business? Come to our city. So
yeah, I don't know. China's building 15 new cruise terminals. They're going after the market. So they're ready to do it. Like when we cruised out of Shanghai, there were so many excited mainland Chinese people to be on that spectrum of the seas. They were ready for it. Even when we were like in Disneyland, Shanghai Disneyland, those folks love their vacation. I mean, it's it was a national holiday when we were in Disneyland, and they were there for it. So yeah, it's interesting. There's going to be tons of other places to go. And maybe that's okay for these people that are protesting. But again, I still think that, when you're blocking something that's already been validated and legitimate, I think it's out of whack. But of course, we're completely biased because we love cruising and that. We are. Well, I'm biased in a way that I don't think your protest should allow you to interfere with other people's lives. You can protest, but let it go. You can go to Parliament, you can protest there, you can go to the mayor, protest there. chaining yourself 7 people and blocking 2 cruise ships from going into port for 7 people.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess, and one day, unfortunately, somebody's going to take exception to it and do harm to somebody there, and they'll be the ones who get charged, right? That's the way it is. Look, when people block roads and then somebody gets so road rage and then they drive through and people get injured, and it goes to the extreme for the wrong reasons, right? And, there's proper ways to protest, and then there's not improper ways to protest.
Yeah, it could be definitely setting up a dangerous situation that could be playing out. It's I don't know. I think the protesters are a big thing that's hitting the news a lot right now, and then also another big thing is the continued increase of prices for cruising. You're in the thick of it. You book a lot of travel as a travel agent. You deal with a lot of people. What are you hearing from the consumer? Are you having a lot of people that maybe book cruises in the past starting to cruise less? Do you think that it's still the same level of people cruising, just not happy about the price increases? And do you think we're getting to a point where the prices are so high that cruising could be impacted in a negative way?
Well, I haven't seen the slowdown yet, that's for sure. And even like when I book big groups that were going on, it's like we're going on in December, the odd person is canceling, but most people are going, and it's fairly expensive, and next year's really expensive. Like if you start pricing cruises next year, it's incredible, especially Alaska and those these solar eclipse cruises that they're all ordering. Those are really overpriced now as well, some of them. It's kind of crazy. I think I just saw an article saying that since 2019, Royal Caribbean's prices alone, just the basic fare, has gone up 40%. And the average price of everything in the United States has gone up 20%. So it's more than doubled the average cost of living price. And that's not including gratuities, shore excursions, drink packages, etc. So I don't see it slowing down, though. We're busier than ever. So I don't know what's going to take for us to start saying, I'm not going to do it this year, kind of thing.
Now, I know you've got a land-based vacation coming up soon to Jamaica, and I also know that you're either booked or you're getting close to finalizing your African safari. Yeah. When you look at the prices of that land-based Jamaica or that African safari and what you're getting for that money compared to what it costs to go on a cruise these days and what you're getting for that money, do you still find cruising to be the better value than a land-based, or are those things starting? To me, it always used to be the better value, but is that coming into question now with the higher prices?
I think a lot depends on where you're going. For instance, if you were to book a Disney World vacation for a family of 4 or a cruise vacation for a family of 4, cruise is way cheaper. Way cheaper. However, as an example, my Jamaica trip, I could have gotten, including my flights, for 4 people, around $5,000 for 2 rooms. And that's all inclusive. So my meals and drinks and everything are included. That's a pretty good price. That's the same price as I bid on my upgrade. So
right. So you ended up with
and I'm in a suite.
4. Yeah, you've ended up with a trip for 4 for the same price as your upgrade.
So a lot of it does depend. If you want the newer and the biggest and brightest, like the Icon, then you're going to pay for it. Plain and simple. Those prices are still through the roof. And I don't think it's going to slow down until at least the Star is out for a few weeks, few months.
Well, you bring up an interesting thing when you mention the Icon. I know specifically this year you've gone on a couple of the newest cruise ships in the global fleet. You've been on the Icon. You've been on the Sun Princess. Which one of those 2 ships? I think I know the answer. Which one of those 2 ships did the launch better? And then can you decide which one of those ships is a better ship, or is it apples and oranges?
They're very different ships. And obviously the Icon had a better launch. Its shows were ready, for one thing. even the dining venue was ready, although it only opened. No, I'm thinking of the Utopia. Sorry, but the venues were all running when we were there for the thing, and the Sun had a rocky start, right?
Yeah.
As is well documented now. I can't even tell you if that's my favorite princess ship yet until I get back on her next month.
Yeah.
Because nothing was running, right? So I didn't really get a chance to experience things the way they should be. So I'm looking forward to my 16-day transatlantic, and I can find out a lot more before we get back on in December.
Yeah, I'm kind of cheating when it comes to the Sun because I'll get to try her after she's been maybe fully baked because I was supposed to be on the inaugural and then it canceled, and then because of my surgery and stuff like that, I couldn't go on the makeup cruise. So I'm looking forward. I'm going to be there October. Then of course I'll be with you, and we'll be there together in October, and then we'll be there of course on a longer cruise in December. So I'm looking forward to it. Everything that I've seen on the Sun really looks like it's done something different for Princess. I've enjoyed those last few cruise ships like the Sky that had the bigger piazza, and I really, Alfredo's. I really enjoyed that cruise ship. So I'm excited to see what this next iteration is. I haven't been on the Icon yet, but everything that I've seen on that definitely looked like it was a step up from the Oasis class. And Oasis class is my favorite class of cruise ship anyways, Royal or anywhere else. And I was just on Utopia. That was a fantastic ship.
You might like the Icon more when you get on her, just because of the way they've done the atrium and that now, and especially.
I feel like I am, everything that I've seen. And then I was on Carnival's newest ship. I was on the Jubilee this year. And so it's, I think all of the cruise lines, kudos to all the cruise lines. I feel like there's definitely innovation happening in the cruising space. It does bring up an interesting concept. All these are mega ships, really. And we know that Royal is planning maybe to build some smaller ships. And a lot of the conversation about cruise ports not wanting cruise lines is because of the mega ship. But I don't see any slowing down when it comes to bigger and bigger cruise ships. Do you anticipate? So you were on Icon. Is that too big? Were there too many people on it? Was that ship too big to go places? Or do you think that's going to be a problem? Do you think we have to stop building big ships at some point? Or do you think it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger?
Well, here's one of the things that's going on. This is why everyone's building their own private islands and building more private islands. So no one's going to be able to tell them they can't go. I just covered a story on Carnival where they're canceling Bimini, which is kind of a private island, right?
Yeah.
And now they're going to send them to both of their private islands next year on the same sailing. So they're just going to keep the money for themselves. And I see that happening. And they're looking to build more around the world, not just in the Caribbean now, right? They're looking at building possible private spots where they're not in a city, not in a town, and they can bus to the towns if they want, but then no one can tell them they can't go to these locations. So
yeah.
I don't think the mega ships are going to go away. There's like 15 of them on order. So
it's really interesting to me because I feel like a lot of people get into cruising, at least people that cruise out of Florida. I feel like they get into cruising because it's another like variation of a beach vacation, right? Let's get on a cruise ship and go to the Bahamas. Let's get on a cruise ship and go to one of the sunny places, on the Mexican coast, that kind of thing. And that was kind of my experience. The first time I got on, it was just to go to a beach in a foreign country, that kind of thing. But then as I traveled more, then I'm like, okay, I want to go to other places in the world. I wonder what, I don't really have any way to quantify it, but I wonder what the split is. Like how many people look at cruising as a weekend party or a beach vacation or a week-long extended beach vacation versus like, let's go to a bucket list destination. I wonder, we see some of these arguments sometimes about, cruising's changed. I wonder if that's really where the argument is, the casual cruiser versus the traveler cruiser, if we can coin those terms. With the people that you deal with, what do you think the mix is? People that just want like a beach vacation versus people that want to go to bucket list destinations?
I think right now the majority of people are just looking for a time to get away.
Yeah.
They just want to get away, and they know cruising is, safe. You're on a ship, you're in an enclosed area, you're in and out of ports, and if there's a danger at a port, won't let you go. They'll keep you on the ship kind of thing. but I'm a little concerned about the new trend coming sort of now with the 3 and 4 day cruises now, especially with the big mega ships, right?
Yeah.
The Star is going to be a 3 and 4 day cruiser. The Utopia is a 3 and 4 day cruiser. Somebody who has to, like, for yourself, you live there, that's great. It's an hour, 2 hour drive to get to these destinations, right? If you live in Florida, this is amazing. But I will not travel down there and do a 3 day, 4 day back to back.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I'll probably get the same entertainment for both weeks, kind of thing. And it's going to be different people on each ship normally. And a lot more people, I think, are going to be partiers than just relaxing, right? They want to get the most out of their trip. And that's when those 3 and 4 days tend to be the ones that get a little ruckusy sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. So you don't see that happen on a 16-day cruise where, people are overindulging all the time and stuff like that. Well, on a 3 day, sometimes they're just trying to get everything they can and all done within a short amount of time, and that's when it leads to problems.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So I tried to pay. I was on the back-to-back for Utopia, so I ended up doing a 3 day and a 4 day. And honestly, it just worked out that way. I really could have just done the 3 day or the 4 day, and I think I could have gotten what I wanted to from that cruise ship. But what was interesting on those sailings is you can see, they're saying it's the best weekend at sea or the best. I can't remember what the actual marketing is. But on that ship, they had more parties outlined than, not only did they make a short cruise that would be appealing to people that like to party, but they also added a bunch of parties. So there was, like silent disco, and there was a toga party. It was like party on top of party. I think the thing that's appealing, and I don't know that how many people it will draw down, but like if you think about Port Canaveral essentially being an extension of Orlando, where you have the theme parks, Disney, Universal, that kind of thing. I liked it when I went to Florida, and not to Florida, when I went to California and I think I did a 4 day cruise on the Carnival Venezia. That was a big trip just to go do a 4 day cruise, but I also did 4 days of knocking around Southern California. And that felt like a really great vacation for me. So I don't know if they're trying to maybe market it for people to do some cruising and to do some land-based stuff at the same time. But to your point, I agree. If I was just purely looking for a cruise, I would struggle to fly somewhere and just do a 3 or 4 day cruise. But interestingly, if you have a couple cruise lines that are doing short cruises, I could see doing a 4 day on the Utopia and a 3 day on the Star. I think that would be kind of interesting. But you could try a couple different ships.
It would just be
it's a lot of hassle. I think
middle day.
Yeah. A lot of hassle to get that done. A lot of stuff going on, and I know that Princess is one of your favorite cruise lines. We've seen over the last few days the announcement that they've increased the price of Princess Premier and Princess Plus, but they've added more to make it super all-inclusive. So now if you pay, I think, is it $80 or $90 for Princess?
It's $90 per day now.
$90 per day for Princess Premier. But you're essentially getting an unlimited specialty dining package. You're also getting new enhanced internet. Do you like this move, or do you think it's better to leave stuff a la carte?
I'm okay with, I thought the move was good. They also made no restrictions now on the amount of drinks, like not the dollar amount, but the amount of drinks you have per day. It's not limited to 15 like all of other Carnival brands.
Yeah.
So that's another change for some people, because if they start counting, some of them times they count specialty coffees and stuff like that, right, as your drink package. So, but I don't know if they're, if everyone gets the Premier and they all have specialty dining, is there enough specialty dining on some ships that everyone can book specialty dining every night?
Right.
Most of them only have 2, right?
Yeah.
They'll have an Italian and a steakhouse, and maybe steamers one night. Or planks, but like the Sun has a lot. The Sun is perfect for this. I don't know if, say, the Caribbean Princess would be perfect for this, right?
Yeah, we struggled a little bit just to get reservations on those specialty dining. So, it's going to be one of those things. I'll say it proactively. If you book the Princess Premier. If you buy the Princess Premier, that gives you unlimited specialty dining. I don't know if you can book stuff in advance. If you can, book stuff in advance.
Book it right away.
Book it in the app. And then the first night that you get on the cruise, book it up. But I kind of like the idea, right? So if you think about, I think Carnival Cruise Line, I'm pretty sure that their drink package where you can get 15 alcoholic drinks, I think that's in the $60 or $70 range. So 90 is not too out of whack, especially for people that want more than 15 drinks, 15 alcoholic drinks, which seems like a lot to me in a day. I don't think I could do that, but I've seen a lot of commenters say, 15's not a lot. I drink some mimosas and some Bloody Marys, and I drink a few beers, and then I throw back a few shots, and then by that time it's 10 a.m. And so I've gone through half my drinks, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of drinking before 10 a.m. But it would be interesting to see if it moves some of those people that like to drink a lot on Carnival over to Princess. I don't know if that will be the effect or not, but it could. But I think $90 is not a bad value. I saw my buddy Walter the other day.
Gratuities too, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw my buddy Walter the other day do the full breakdown, and yeah, you can easily get to $90 with gratuities and internet and specialty dining and drink pack. I think just with gratuities, internet, and drinking, you can get to the $90 pretty easy. Yeah, so. We got it on our December cruise. So I'm going to, I guess I should start booking specialty dining now. I don't know, but I think it's a good thing. What do you think? There's been a lot of hubbub about the tipping lately. Of course, some rumor like, oh, you're not going to be able to remove your tips. We've dealt with this for a long period of time. I think ever since we've been dealing with cruising. Would you rather the price of gratuities, would you rather gratuities be included in the price of the cruise, which means we would pay higher prices for cruises, or do you like the current system, or what's a better system?
Well, I'm okay with the current system. Instead of charging me every day, just show me right up at the front when I'm booking, here's your taxes, here's your gratuities, here's your total price. Yes, I'll pay that, because you're going to pay it anyway. I'd rather pay in advance, but that's something that the cruise lines keep out of there because they want to offer it in packages, right? Like Princess Plus, for instance. Your gratuities include free at sea. Your gratuities are included, so it's like looking for a perk that's not really a perk in a way. Have you ever removed gratuities?
No, I would never remove gratuity. I just wouldn't do it. So that's the thing that really annoys me about the process is a lot of cruise lines, like Royal specifically, when I was on Utopia, I prepaid my gratuities, which I'm not going to remove, right? Or if I don't even know if I prepaid them, but I got the assigned gratuity charged to me on a daily basis. There's no way I'm ever removing that. I don't want to stiff anybody. But at the same time, at the end of the cruise, they gave me an envelope that said, please give me some tip money. And so I don't like that situation, because which is it? Did I pay my gratuities or did I not pay my gratuities? Because I felt like I paid my gratuities, but now you've given me an envelope, and how can I not put money in an envelope, right? I feel like that's a little manipulative, and I feel like you have to be like you got to be hard about it to say, okay, I'm not going to put money in the envelope because I already gave money. I think that's the thing that bothers me. Just make it one way or the other. Like you said, charge me the gratuities and leave me alone. Don't be there with your hand out, right? And but I always tip. It's because that's the culture that we live in, and I don't think I've ever. So in addition to never removing my gratuities, I don't think I've never not left, $7 to $10 to $15 a day for the cabin steward, right? Or if I go to the main dining room every night and I've seen the same people for a week, I've never not given those people money. So, and I've paid my gratuities. So I think that's the thing that makes it a little dicey. When I'm in the casino, every drink that I get has a gratuity built in. But if I'm at the table, I'm going to give the guy $1 chip just because that's the culture. I don't know. It's, I understand people saying, I just hate that. I guess I shouldn't really worry about if other people aren't doing the right thing. You can't fix everything, but it's just frustrating to know that there's going to be people out there that looks at somebody that's busting their butt on a cruise ship. Of course, they chose to be there on the cruise ship. Nobody made them come take that job. But it's frustrating because I don't think anybody looks at that person that's working for tips and is blind to the fact that they're working for tips. I just don't understand how somebody could be like, well, I know you're working for tips, but I'm not going to tip you. So it's a frustrating thing.
Well, especially in North America, right? It's in our culture. The food service industry, the service industry, tipping is in the culture. Go to Japan, there's no tipping.
Yeah.
You know, they actually get insulted sometimes if you try and tip them. So it's a completely different way of thinking. So I don't know. I have never removed gratuities in my life. The one thing I don't do is I don't walk around with cash. So when I get a drink in the bar, I'm not tipping because I don't have, you know, if they gave me a paper thing, I probably would.
Yeah.
But not every drink. If I was, you know, sitting at a table and ordering drinks for a show and I get 3 or 4 drinks during the evening, I would make 1 tip at the end of the night. You know what I mean? It'd be a bigger tip, not a smaller tip. But I don't carry cash. And I see people walk around with dollar bills all the time and doing this and that. I guess also coming from Canada, we don't have dollar bills. We don't have $2 bills. We have change, and I'm not walking around with a fistful of change. So
here's what do you guys have? Loonies and toonies?
Loonies and toonies.
Yeah. Here's a loony and a toonie for your efforts. Hope you enjoy that. They're like, what am I going to do with a loony here? Yeah, I don't know. So it's an interesting place that we're at. I guess let's talk about this a little bit. I made a video today talking about Carnival ending its inaugural season for the Carnival Jubilee. And when it ends its inaugural season on these XL class cruise ships, they make a change in the included food that they give you. During the inaugural season, they give you free specialty dining, as many as you want, in their 2 restaurants, Cucina del Capitano and Shebang. But when they decide to close off that season, they move that from giving you 1 included or free meal in those restaurants. They move from unlimited to just giving you 1, and then they charge you for each additional 1. So I made the video. You made the video yesterday. Both of them had kind of enticing, clicky type titles that said Carnival limits.
People didn't like mine.
people, you know, Carnival limits free food. And look, that's the game that we have to play, right? Like, we have to market our content in a way that we can get people to watch it. And the way that works, and I think it's a reflection of the people. I can tell you with hard data that people tend to click on a title that seems salacious or intriguing or clicky more so than a title that would say, like, if we put a title that said Carnival is going to charge $8 for Shebang now, blah, blah, nobody's going to click on that.
Nope.
So,
yeah.
But the response that I got from one person has been sitting with me a little bit. They said, because of these videos that we make, that less people want to cruise now, that we're doing the cruise industry a disservice. And I know personally that I've had a lot of people tell me that because of the videos that we make, they cruise more, they try a different thing. Do you think there's a danger, and we're not the only ones doing it, right? Like, if you look at the landscape of social media, a lot of it is this, kind of clicky, you got to dig further to find out what the story is, that kind of thing. Do you think the social media is hurting or helping cruising the way that it plays out now? I don't even know if you think about it, but what do you think?
Well, in general, I hate social media, period, because everything's bad. But it's also the most informative we've ever been in our lives, right? Yeah. If I needed to fix something on my computer, I can Google it and figure out how to fix my computer. Where back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we were lost. We were paying somebody to come in my house and fix things and everything, right? As far as, like, normally I knew that when yesterday my title, I just said no free food. Yeah. Something like that on my thumbnail, right? Carnival.
But it was extremely successful.
It was. No, my video took off. Yeah. It was the number 1 video of the month.
Your success on your video yesterday motivated me to make my title today. I'm like, oh, Don cracked the code yesterday. Okay, no free food. No free food, everybody. Watch my video.
What a lot of people don't understand is we have our regular viewers who come and know our content. They know what to expect. They're going to watch it. But when we put a thumbnail out there that draws people to it, new people who don't see it, who just see the thumbnail, we may get new subscribers, new viewers, and they may start following us. That's how the business grows.
Yeah.
And there was no lie in either of the videos.
That's true.
It absolutely happened. But it's just, it kind of looked a little worse than it was.
Yeah.
But if, in all honesty, how many people honestly thought Carnival was going to start charging for all their dining? Nobody, I don't think. Most cruisers know.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, again, I do think about it. Obviously, both of us are never, I don't think we're trying to deceive anybody. No. I certainly like to make a title that makes people come in and see what the heck I'm talking about, to see what kind of foolishness I got going on. But I think today was the first time somebody said, "Oh, I'm keeping people from cruising," which I can't imagine that being true. I can't imagine somebody watching a video and being like, "Well, because this knucklehead said this, I'm not going to go on a cruise." I think I'm struggling to accept that to be a reality. And maybe if we are keeping people from cruising by our content, then maybe those could be people I don't want on a cruise anyway. So that may be too harsh, but. I think most people get it. I don't know. Yeah. I love it.
And very few of the thumbnails are like that. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm trying every day. I'm trying every day to make a clicky thumb.
I want somebody to click on it for sure.
Yeah.
But I think we do our best to try and inform as best we can, and we never are saying a story that's not true. I've seen like thumbnails, and you click on it, and it's nothing to do with the whole video, and you're going, what the heck? That, to me, is clickbait.
Well, we've had that conversation. I mean, it's the dance, in my opinion. The dance is to be intriguing and honest and pay it off. And I feel like we do that, right? I don't think you could point to a circumstance where, just because the person guessed wrong on the front end, I don't think that the answer was incorrect, that kind of thing. So I don't know, man. It's the funnest challenge that I have, and I really enjoy making the content, and I really enjoy when we get to cruise, because now we've just spent an hour talking about a good time that we had, and I really do appreciate it. So Don, I'm looking forward to our next adventure. Looking forward to seeing you again in October and December. Yeah, and I'm excited because Jenny B's going to be with us too, and we always have fun when we're all three together. So I'm looking forward to that. But hey, man, thanks so much.
Jenny gets to meet Angelina for the first time.
Oh, Angelina will be excited about that too.
Yeah,
Jenny and Angelina. Okay, very nice. That's going to be cool. Well, man, I know you got travel coming up. I hope you have a great trip, and I'll definitely try to catch up with you when you get back. But thank you for spending the time, and everybody, make sure you go check out Don's channel, Don's Family Vacations, and go check out his other channel, Just Don. Both of them will give you some interesting insight, not only to cruising, but what Don's got going on. So thank you, sir. Much appreciated. And we'll have to do this again.
For sure. Always a pleasure, my friend. We'll see you in less than 2 months.
There you go. Another great conversation with my buddy, Don Terris. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, this video presentation of this podcast. If you dug it, you can hit that like button. If you want more, please consider subscribing. And well, I'm not sure who we're going to talk to next, but thank you for stopping by for this one. This is Tony for La Lido Loca. And until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.